Hello again, and welcome to episode 7 of this year in review series where we are looking at 22 things that happened during the year 2022 and what we can take away from them as we count down to 23. In episode 5, we spoke about Wordle, the number one search for the year in search report by Google. And from there, we started speaking a lot about games, particularly word games, and from there on to language, linguistics, and finally, I spoke a little bit about ChatGPT, which has really started trending only in the month of December. So, if you look at the chart here, you will see that the search trend for ChatGPT has completely exploded in this month. This is, of course, because of the release of ChatGPT by OpenAI. The obvious part of the discussion is what is ChatGPT? Why did it become viral? What is it all about? What are some of the interesting things that you can do with it? But that's only looking at things from a surface level. As you know, and as we have been doing in this series, we've been going deeper into each and every one of these aspects. So, here also, let me take this opportunity to go deeper into the space of NLP. So, let's start with first understanding what NLP is and why did it rise to prominence. So, firstly, let's look at what has been the reason behind this rise of natural language processing. As we all know, we are living in the information age where there has been an absolute explosion of information and data. There is exponential increase in the amount of data that is available, and there is also an exponential increase in the computing power that is available in the world, in the sophistication of the algorithms that are available to crunch this data. As a result of this, AI and machine learning have become buzzwords and they have been doing amazing things over the last few years. So, this is not news to anybody, but what is noteworthy is the fact that these algorithms run on quantitative data, whereas natural language or words are not quantitative by their very nature. They are words and they cannot be expressed in numerical format such as numbers. So most of the focus of these algorithms and AI and ML applications was really on things which were easily convertible into numbers. So we started with numbers, we started with financial numbers or physical measurements, anything that could be transcribed into numbers. It then moved on to image processing, which is again very easily convertible into numbers because if you look at the representation of an image, it is essentially a matrix of pixels. While the world was busy doing all of this, some people realized something very, very fundamental. The fact that most of the data that we are dealing with, which can be quantified, is actually a very small proportion of what is available in the world out there. Most of the data that we have is unstructured data or data which is not directly represented in the form of numbers. And language and words, the things that we use to communicate most often, in fact, all of the time, is not even part of this analysis, is not even part of this data set. How do we go about doing that? And that is what led to a renewed interest in the field of natural language processing to see how is it that we can use some of the computational techniques on top of the language, and that gave rise to something called computational linguistics, essentially where the field of computation or computer science and data analysis, etc., meets the world of linguistics. The promise here was that if we are able to somehow convert these words into numbers, then we are going to be able to process and use many of the algorithms that we otherwise use on our day-to-day language. There have been some developments over the years, but one of the watershed developments that happened in about 2013 or thereabouts was the release by Google of word2vec. Word2vec is exactly what it sounds like. You transform words and they become vectors. If you don't want to get into the technicality of what a vector is, let's just presume for the moment that it's just a simple matrix of numbers. Just like we use the example of representing an image by a pixel, you represent a word in the form of these mathematical vectors. For the algorithms to be able to exactly pinpoint what is that matrix or mathematical vector which is the representation of every word was a humongous exercise. So I've been gung-ho about this space ever since I heard about it, since 2016 or thereabouts, and it was a bit disappointing, honestly, to see that the world was not waking up to these possibilities. But what ChatGPT has done is that it has fired the imagination of everybody around the world, and it is a watershed moment in the history of NLP, which is going to lead to democratization of NLP and AI as applied to language or linguistics. If you want to know more about what exactly can be done in this space, there are a few things that are in the public domain related to what I have been doing in this space. One of the applications that I built was to understand what the CVs of candidates meant, what the job description meant, and kind of marry the two together to refine your search. And this is way, way more powerful than using outdated and simplistic techniques like keyword search and filters, which is mostly what you would find in recruitment portal in those days. So that was one application. I've written about it as well. I'll drop the link to that article in the description below. If you want to know more or if you need any help around any of these applications of NLP, feel free to hit me up and we can definitely discuss on what are the possibilities in this space. Another one of the projects that we did, which got an innovation award by Financial Times across Asia Pacific region, was using natural language processing to do content optimization. Again, the logic was very similar. How is it that we can understand the meaning of content and use it inside of a machine learning model to predict which kind of content is going to do well versus that which needs some tweaking? So those links are available if anybody wants to do a deep dive. But what is the takeaway for somebody who may not want to go as deep into the field of NLP? The universal takeaway is consistent with the theme of this year in review. The reason why we do this year in review series, as I mentioned earlier, is so that we can take a step back, we can introspect on what has been going on and be ready and prepared for the future. The fact that this ChatGPT became viral and it is a watershed moment in the democratization of AI and NLP should prompt us to do some soul searching in this space. Let me give you one or two prompts to help you think about this, which are again very universal in nature. So consider this. What is the application that you use most often to communicate in writing? It may be your email, it may be your word processor, it may be your chat tool. Let's take the example of your word processing document, where you would probably create the most comprehensive documents, do the most of your writing. If you look at the experience of using these word processors, not much has changed from the time the earlier versions of Windows were rolled out. Once you map this to the advancements that have taken place, particularly in the last 5 or 10 years in the NLP space, you know that this is missing a few tricks which are otherwise available. This is a huge white space and I'm pretty sure somebody or the other will come in and fill this white space. Similarly, you will find such white spaces all over the industry. No matter what you are doing, whether you are in a business or profession or working in a job, or even if you're looking at technology for personal use, there are massive white spaces which will emerge. Those who are able to grasp the power of these technologies and able to apply it to find solutions to fill up these white spaces will prosper and will achieve exponential growth. Hope that gives you some thoughts and think about it deeply. But before you get too deep into your thought process, do remember to like, subscribe and share, and do leave your comments behind on anything that we spoke about today, whether it is ChatGPT, have you tried it or not, what was your experience, were you aware of the NLP space, and what are the white spaces that you see in this space that somebody should come and cover. So with that, I'll see you in the next episode.